Hello and welcome to the Metapod, a Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. I wanted to say like world, and then I was going to say corner. And I was like corner of the world, and then I was like, no, what's that word? What's that word? It's meta. The Metapod podcast, Sean. It's right in front of me. Whether you're watching this on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, whichever, thank you so much for joining us today. We got a fun-filled episode. Now that we're done evaluating Evolving Sky, Sean, the set that comes out this week, you plan on getting any?
I mean, I did a pre-release, but one thing that I have said before, and I'm maintaining now, is I don't think I'm going to be buying boxes anymore, or really any products. I think I'm firmly in the camp of singles only, personally. That way, like, you know, I have too many cards. I actually sorted all of my cards that are on the shelf back there, all my Pokemon cards for post-rotation again. And I just have like so much bulk of like different Pokemon that I thought, oh, maybe I'll play this one day, and they were all trash. And so I'm like, I don't need these now. These are never going to be played in Expanded. So
these are no good in Expanded because Expanded is a mess.
Yes. So I will not be buying boxes probably anymore, just because I got 2 card games to keep up. But I did, Jake, I did order a bunch of cards for post-rotation. We can talk about that. So I do plan on getting back into some Pokemon very soon.
Yeah, we will be talking about post-rotation, both like kind of like the decks that we think are going to do well, decks that you should look out for, and then also kind of like Sean and I have put together a little bit of a buy list. We're going to sprout out a lot of the cards that we think that you all should be looking at, especially right now before Evolving Skies and rotation happens. For those of you that may not remember, rotation is going to be set by the regulation marks in the bottom corner. So it's basically, as of right now, going to be Sword and Shield on, is the simplest way to put it. I couldn't find a date specifically on when that is going to be active, but I think for right now, I think probably what they're doing is like for organized play, right? There's no official Pokemon events except for like Players Cup and Team Challenge. So whenever the next one of those go on, they'll probably say like, oh, it's going to be this format. On PTCGO, I don't know when it's going to be active. I don't know if it's going to be on Friday when Evolving Skies releases, or if it's going to be later, but there are tournament organizers that are doing like POG format, which is team up to Evolving Skies, all that nature. So I guess it's more of right now like play it by ear.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? We have a list and stuff, and Sean was talking about the going to be buying singles.
Yeah, so we had some tech issues for everybody out there. I try to use Skype for tech reasons. There's like specific technology that Skype uses.
There's good reasons to use Skype, and then there's bad internet Jake that couldn't use Skype.
I will say, Jake, though, Discord is working fine, so I'm actually going to blame Skype for this one.
I was fingers crossed, gonna knock on wood, all that jazz. But if you like the podcast, hopefully this didn't deter you from making a 5-star review, because we are chugging away at reviews, Sean. We're over 50 reviews now. We're at 51 reviews. Wonderful reviews from people. But do you want to go into that?
I can read the review. I think we are at Nuri.
Not 100% sure how to pronounce it.
I don't know how to pronounce it either, but I'll give it a read.
A friend.
Here. Yes. The review is, y'all are too good. Great podcast. Just got into PTCG and was a bit overwhelmed. Y'all make it easy to keep up with news and have a good time listening. Thank y'all for the hard work and for giving me a pass time at work. LOL.
Work.
Yeah,
that's what Sean and I do. Actually, Sean works. I just still fart around because I don't have a job.
Well, I mean, fingers crossed I can one day live the dream of not work. We shall see.
But yeah, we try to do that. We try to adhere to newer players and veterans alike, because we know there's a lot of people that play casually. We know there's a lot of people that, don't want to play in every single online event. Mm-hmm. They still want to keep up with the meta. They still enjoy the game. They still have fun. They like shuffling cards at their desk. The whole shebang, Sean.
Indeed. And actually, to the point of 50 reviews, Jake, we should put out a survey. This is a reminder to myself and you on Twitter saying, like, who all would be interested in meeting up with us if we did something in Indianapolis area during Gen Con. That way I can get a sense of numbers, because it may be that if there's only 5 people, which is cool. If it's one person, that's amazing. I'm just going to be frank. If it's 5 people or whatever, then it may just be finding a place to grab drinks or whatever, or grab some food.
I mean, it would have to be a place, because with the pandemic and stuff and the Delta variant, Indiana is not a great state at handling these things. So we definitely have to be mindful. And
actually, Jake,
the worst thing would be to prepare for 5 people and then 100 people show up.
That's true. Or also, if there's 100 people, just we'll put out a survey. Keep an eye out for it on our Twitter. If you don't already follow us on Twitter, go to the link in the podcast description, and give us your most honest response of would you actually go? Cool if you don't want to, that's fine. We'll try to do at least a meetup if we can, and if possible, even Jake, Indianapolis better than I do, so there might be places that are hey, you can actually go here if it's outside. Even I have a laptop, we can actually record potentially on the fly like that. So we could maybe do an outdoor recording with people. Mm-hmm. They may not be able to hear us, but we could do it. Are you there?
There we go. I see you again.
Okay, there we go. Internet challenges persist.
Sorry. I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh no.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Jake. Oh no. Oh no. Are you back?
Yeah, it literally just
the video cut off.
I mean the whole thing shut down and then turned back on by itself.
Well, we'll keep this moving. We got some internet nonsense happening today, but
you all will not be able to see it pretty much when it comes to the video or the audio, but Sean and I are losing our minds back here, but that's the usual week, I guess. Mm-hmm. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden I disappear and it becomes a recording only on YouTube.
I was actually watching
Flight of the end, it becomes a recording.
I was watching Flight of the Conchords, and there's an episode where Brett quits the band and they just have a tape of Brett that they're playing at events. And it's that might be what Jake turns into, is just a little tape, a pre-recorded thing that I'm canned laughter for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the process of getting a Wi-Fi extender type deal in here. And then there's a landline connection down here that I think will help out as well if I connect to it. So I just have to get I'm going to try both of those things to see if that helps, because I need the connection for streaming for the MedPod. I need to be able to.
It is the year 2021. You just need internet.
Yeah, I just need internet now. I just need internet, So, but hopefully, I mean, we got a jam-packed episode for you all today.
Yes.
So let's get going, Sean.
Well, we'll kick it off. I think we maybe touched about this briefly, but we'll touch on it a little bit more intensely, which is the gold tag team cards seem to finally be making their way to the West. Yeah. So the first one that we're pulled up here on YouTube, for those of you watching on YouTube, is the Pikachu and Zekrom gold card. What is this? $50.
Tag All-Stars.
Yeah, it's basically the Tag All-Stars Pikachu and Zekrom card, which is a gold version of it. It should be, they're saying maybe they're saying a $50 box, which would make sense for 10 packs. That seems about right. But the interesting thing is this card is finally coming to the US 2 years, I think it is, after it released in Japan.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is 2 years.
So they took their sweet time. And also, maybe when we did talk about this on the pod before, we were but what about the Charizard version? I
think we just knew about the Pikachu and Zekrom at the time.
So they did announce then the Reshiram and Charizard card as well, also gold. Interesting thing here, they decided to release these as promos rather than put them into a pack, which at this point makes sense because like what pack would you put these in? Like it's just you're not going to put these in celebrations, right? So like, and both of these should be coming out in November, I think, right?
Yeah, late November, like right before like Thanksgiving and stuff, or around that time. November 21st is the date that it says via Poke Beach. So I mean, it's like cool, but like Sun and Moon's already going to be pretty much dead because rotation will happen. We'll have moved on from the Sun and Moon format. This seems like something that should have been put in like Champion's Path.
Yeah, because Champion's Path, we've talked about it. The actual like draw, like the chase cards are pretty trash. You get either the Charizard or the VMAX, and that's it.
Yeah, like you could have put it in Champion's Path, but I think what makes even more sense is Shining Fates. Because if you remember from like Hidden Fates, we had like the gold Lele, Bulu, Coco, the other one, Feeny. So this would have made sense, like gold cards, and they're pretty cool cards, you know, like people really like these and they were really, really good. Could have played with them for a little bit.
Yeah. Now like Reshiram and Charizard, I don't think is going to see much play in Expanded. Maybe, I don't even think in a Mewtwo deck. I think Pikachu and Zekrom could see some play in Expanded in a Pikarom deck. Maybe.
Yeah, because Pikarom is just good in Expanded.
Yeah. And then
with e-powers and stuff. I mean, it's just good. Thunder Mountain with it, the Coco, all that jazz.
I think the only other card that there's a few cards that are actually in gold that we still haven't gotten. But the one that I'm thinking of is the gold Mewtwo and Mew. I believe they made a gold Mewtwo and Mew as well for Tag All-Stars. There's a few more, but that's the last one that I'm like would be more of a chase card to see if it gets printed in some sort of. I mean,
there's a ton of like full like blinged out cards that we just never got, including a whole bunch of full art supporters.
Yeah,
Sean, you know how I feel about them full art supporters. Mm-hmm. You know, poor Belelba and Bryson, man, I never got to play with that card as a nice shiny thing. But I mean, there's so many. Like there was the Weavile GX, the Umbreon Darkrai, Trevenant Dusknoir, Espeon Deoxys, like those full art promos. Or I'm sorry, just the full arts that we never got.
Well, we got the
promo alternate arts.
Yeah.
Eventually for those, but I mean, there are some cool ones in there with like the green, red challenge, blues tactics, like those three cards, how they like correlate to one another. You know, Welder was good for so long.
Oh yeah, we had did they ever release the male version of Welder?
No, they never did.
That's sad. That was a cool card.
I could see though in like so if you remember in X and Y had like a collection box of like the end of the era collection box where they had like a Shaman on the box. You could get a Shaman promo card. You get a Team Flare Grunt promo card. I think you get an N promo card. And like, I think there was a fourth one along with that. I think it ran for like $100 or something. I remember seeing it at my local comic book shop for a while before the TCG boom kicked off during the pandemic. And always being like, well, those are cool, but I can't play them in standard, so I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah.
But I could see them doing like a Sun and Moon hurrah box like that, and maybe like putting like a Welder or like the Reds Challenge, Greens Exploration, Blues Tactics in there as like cards, along with, you know, the Mew and Mewtwo GX gold card on it. I mean, it'd be a really hefty box, and it'd be a really expensive box.
Yeah.
I could see it.
I think you're right, though, to think that they might just start rolling this stuff out over time, because they've actually done a really weird thing lately of like reprinting really old stuff, like old product, and selling it. Like there's some like EX
Lugia Ho-Oh EX boxes that came out that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Like, what the heck was that?
So there could be some validity to the idea that like maybe they'll just keep these around for promo boxes. And so over the next year or two, eventually we'll get all of them with like random promo boxes, right?
Yeah, I just kind of wish that they would have stopped. They would have stopped at like the Dedenne and the Umbreon Darkrai and stuff like that. Because now they're just teasing me at this point.
It's like, oh, remember all those awesome cards we never got? Remember?
Yeah, remember all those awesome cards that that you never got. Well, you're not getting the full art supporters anyway, but you can get everything else. And I'm like, come on.
Outside of that, there hasn't been a ton of product news. There is like some rumors floating around, but we don't really talk about the super early rumor stuff. But there is. I was a little bit amazed that they announced this card so far in advance, because the game doesn't come out until 2022. So it's kind of wild that they did announce this card, which is the Arceus V Pokemon Legends game promo. Jake, do you want to talk about what this card does and let me know if you think it's any good?
So this card, I mean, it is interesting. It's a 220 HP basic colorless Pokemon because Arceus is a colorless Pokemon, as you can say. There's also Glaceon V and Leafeon that come in, but it doesn't matter. The first attack is 2 colorless Trinity Charge. Search your deck for up to 3 basic energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way you'd like. Then shuffle your deck. Keep in mind that Twin Energy does not work on this card. And in Expanded, there's probably way better energy acceleration tactics than double colorless Arceus V. The third attack, or the second attack, is 3 colorless Power Edge, 130 vanilla damage. 3 energies for 130. That 3 shots of VMAX.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not good, and I don't think it's supposed to be good.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it's just not supposed to be good, but it's so weird to make a card that seems like it just, like, somebody has to design it. You have to put something on it, right? And it's like, why is it so bad? It's the first V card of Arceus, of like this legendary, like, it's God, right? Basically.
Mythical.
It's like
it
mythical.
is the God Pokemon.
Right. And it's like, and you had a whole format defined by Arceus Dialga Palkia, right? So like, you'd think, at least in my mind, like maybe this card should have some playability. Now, the one thing that we don't know is what will come out between now and when this comes out. Maybe there's an Arceus VMAX. Who knows?
Maybe double colorless is coming back.
Maybe double color. That would be super broken. And
I think people would be mad if double colorless came back.
You think? I don't know. I think people like double colorless, to be honest.
I mean, people like double colorless, but I think just that people are not going to be happy.
No, I think the reason double colorless could not exist in this current format is because Triple XL also exists. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that you can have both of those in the same format. That is broken. But now that Triple XL will be rotating, like the restriction they put on Twin Energy might be able to be lifted to give double colorless. Maybe it's like a V only double colorless. So you can't have 8 double colorless energies for a single prizer Pokemon. So you have like a Twin Energy for non-Vs, and maybe there's like a version of Twin Energy. Maybe it's just for colorless Vs, right? Because they have lots of weird... I could see something like that happening, because if that happens, then this is actually a really nice companion to future dragon Pokemon, because it's 3 basic. It just doesn't matter what kind though. So like,
yeah, and I mean, you could put this in something like Rayquaza. You know, you could put it like a 1 or a 2 in Rayquaza.
Yeah, if you're going second, you open this, you end up getting like 5 energy equivalent on board. You might even play this in like a water with Melanie, or does Melanie only attach to water Pokemon?
Anything like a Lapras or something that has like just a bunch of water energies or a bunch of fire energies with like Senna Scorch.
I just, I think there could be a world in which this is not awful just because of that first attack. If you can pull it off going second on your first turn, that can set up some really big games. But currently, the way that the format is structured, I don't think it makes sense, because then your opponent, with Ice Rider, we'll talk about this when we talk about post-row, but all these decks are coming in and just basically taking knockouts turn 2. And this little buddy here at 220, unless you're playing,
especially because it's fighting week.
Right. Yeah. Like, oh, it's so gross.
It'll be really interesting, but we also don't know if we're getting this in the rest of the world. This is, as of right now, a Japan-only promo for pre-ordering Pokemon Legends Arceus. And we know, Sean, we know that in the rest of the world, at least, if you pre-order Legends Arceus right now from the PokemonCenter.com, the Pokemon Center, which I would assume that this promo would probably come through, you get a Arceus plushie. You know, so why, in my mind, I don't know if this will even come, because like, why would you have two different pre-orders that didn't come out at the same time? It'd be one thing if it was like, okay, here, as of right now, you can pre-order, we're releasing both of these at the same time, so you can choose between them. But like those people that like me, I pre-ordered it because I kind of wanted the plushie. I pre-ordered that, but I would much rather have the TCG card, to be honest. So like, then it would be, if they release it with the promo there, I'd be like, well, like, do I cancel my pre-order, then hope to pre-order it again and hopefully get it? Or like, what happens then? Or do you give this to like GameStop?
I think that's actually an interesting point. Although all the GameStop cards that they've been getting lately are absolute garbage, but maybe
GameStop promos are so funny.
They're so bad.
They're my favorite because they're so dumb.
But I think we will get this card, because the problem with this card is it is just on the edge of playability in like maybe some weird decks that I don't think you cannot release it. Because like you can't have a meta where there's one card in Japanese that doesn't exist in English that might be playable. So I think we will get a version of this card at some point.
It might also just not be a promo, and it might come in the January, February set.
Exactly. I could see that set revolving. People have talked about, are we going to get a Legends themed product?
Yeah, are we going to get a Legends themed product? Are we going to get a Gen 4 focused product for Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl as well?
Yeah, and that would make a lot of sense, because these actually both if you watch the Pokemon Presents last week, these actually both take place in the exact same region. It's just one of them takes place many years before. So they've set up this world in which we're going to be focused on, what region is that? The Sinnoh. We're going to focus on Sinnoh. Broadly
Sinnoh/Hisuiya.
Which is what the old name for it was. For those of you who didn't watch, now you're getting the lore, the backstory.
If you do want to watch it, you can check out my YouTube where I have my full reaction. Pog, look at that promo. Anyway, Sean, continue on.
But yeah, it all is taking place in that region, so I could definitely see a year of the TCG, 2 or 3 sets that are themed around the region of Sinnoh, and that could be an interesting thing, right? We had battle styles. Is there something unique to the Diamond and Pearl era or the region of Sinnoh in terms of a mechanic that we could see come back or come to the card game for the first time?
Well, going back to the Pokemon Presents, they did have a special new way of attacking in Legends Arceus. It's like, I can't remember it off the top of my head. One of them is like agile, and the other one is something, if you watch the
attack
present and you hear that, it sounds like single and rapid strike.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, like, I actually don't think we'll get quite that thing.
But like, I don't know. I mean, they're putting out fusion Pokemon. They're putting out fusion stuff. Who knows? Maybe they go with another gimmick here in the next couple sets. They just introduce something else. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things that can happen.
Well, we definitely veered off there. I was not expecting to do some theory crafting, but Jake,
hey, is Ultra Ball coming back? That's the real question.
It needs to. It really needs to.
I think it could. I think it'd be cool.
I think you're absolutely. I do think actually Ultra Ball could come back, but
it would also make this format even more turbo.
Jake, what do you? Let's get into the meat and potatoes of post rotation now. And I'm going to ask you, Jake. I watched some of OmniPoke's video, their post rotation tier list, to help form my opinions, because I haven't delved as deep as I normally would. But Jake, if you had to pick, a deck to start with post rotation, what deck do you want to talk about first?
I think that we should just talk about the obvious thing right off the bat that everybody's been talking about is going to be so good post rotation, and that you can like start getting into now and start playing now and getting adjusted to its play style, and that is Rapid Strike Urshifu. A lot of people have been talking about how Rapid Strike Urshifu, especially when Mew bench barrier leaves the format. We've touched on that before. It's not anything new, I think, to a lot of our listeners. But without bench barrier Mew in the format, I think Rapid Strike Urshifu can do pretty dominantly. And I agree. Like, I think it could just do really well because I think Shadow Rider is not going to be as good, which we'll touch more on later, which just brings up Urshifu, in my opinion. So that's I wouldn't say the BDIF, because I think it's way too early to say the BDIF. But if you're looking for decks to look out for, maybe you want to start buying cards now, or you want to start trying to play and get used to archetypes, right? Because Urshifu is not the easiest thing to play.
No.
Especially when you have to do sort of spread damage. But I think Rapid Strike Urshifu is one that everyone needs to have on their radar. Everybody needs to prepare to face in a tournament 2 or 3 times. And honestly, I think right now is the time to go get it.
Yeah. We're going to combine this into like a bit of a tier list / it's not really a tier list, but like top deck / buy list.
Yeah.
And Jake and I talked about this earlier, and we actually think that Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, I think now is a good time. I don't think they're going to get any cheaper than between $13 and $15 a card. That might still be fairly pricey for some of y'all, especially coming from, prior to Battle Styles. I think Pokemon decks in general are about the cheapest they've ever been because of all of the promo products. You could get like Pikarom or ADP or all these other decks for basically between $50 and $70. So I do think prices of playing these top tier decks is going to go up a little bit now. But, 13, you get, I think most decks that are playing Rapid Strike only run 3 of the VMAX. So after those 3, and then you're talking about the V being between like $3 to $5, something like that. You're basically your core expensive cards in the deck, which is the Urshifu line, is only going to be maybe $50 to $60 max for all of it.
And for a deck as well that's been like a tier 1 deck for a bit now. Yeah. I think is also something to note that it's going to be good, and it's going to be good for a bit. I mean, it's just as expensive as Shady Dealings in Teleon. Quick shooting, it's definitely lower, but the Shady Dealings, your Drizziles, the Drizziles are more expensive in itself than the Inteleon. The Drizzile is still like a $4 card, Sean, that has the ability, and then your Inteleons are also like $3.
All right.
So it's not. You get the promos though. Get the promos if anything, because those are the league promos are like $1.50. They're like half priced.
I was gonna say like. The quick shooting seems to be the more expensive one at between.
Yeah, I think I was looking at the shiny one.
Yeah,
I was looking at the shiny one at first.
But yeah, like you can get the Shady Dealings and the quick shooting. The quick shooting, I think, is the one that makes the Rapid Strike deck tier 1 because you could place those extra damage counters. But
I think both have viability though, and like all the decks that utilize. All the decks that utilize Inteleon, I think, both play quick shooting and Shady Dealings. That's why I recommend getting like both of them. Because I think a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll run like a 2-1 or a 3-1 between quick shootings being the majority, and then that's a gold shiny Inteleon, Sean.
I mean, but if you want to flex, don't buy this immediately. $50 is crazy. That's stupid. I think it will be expensive because I think the deck is that good. But, if you really want to bling out your deck, you can with Evolving Skies now.
Yeah, it's gonna be something. I know the Snorlax was also going for a pretty penny as well. I think it was like $50 or whatever. The shiny Snorlax and Evolving Skies, or wait, is it Evolving Skies? I know it's a Snorlax. I looked it up the other day because I saw a TikTok of someone. They're like, I paid $120 for a shiny Snorlax.
This one?
Yeah, they paid like $120 for that, and they said they got 2 instead. I was like, how did you pay $120?
I mean, for whatever reason,
you definitely paid 2 and then scammed everybody. So I looked up the price, and it's still about 100. So
that's crazy. That The fact that this is $100 is absolutely absurd to me, just to be honest.
Yeah, because it's not nearly as played as like quick shooting.
But I mean, it is Snorlax. People love they Snorlax, right? Like Frostlass is sitting over here at $35, and Snorlax is like, I'm 100. I'm so big.
The Frostlass has a little bit of, it's not like incredible viability.
No.
I've seen some people throw it around in a couple lists, but I don't think it's that good. I think if Ditto Prism Star was a Ditto Prism Star S card was in the format, that Frostlass would be a lot better. But here we are.
The next deck. So basically, Rapid Strike Urshifu we're putting, basically at the top.
Yeah,
like that. I think the other deck that kind of sits at the top that a lot of people have talked about is Ice Rider. And
I would 100% agree.
That is.
You want the alternate art?
Well,
Sean.
I mean,
I want the alternate art too, but I also realistically look at my bank account.
Yeah, I want the alternate art, but I also want money.
See, Ice Rider Calyrex Remix about the same price as Urshifu right now, $14. I actually think Ice Rider kind of gets better.
Yes.
With rotation, I'm similar to Urshifu, and Ice Rider Calyrex is going to be around longer in circulation because Chilling Rain was the set after Battle Style, so I think Ice Rider is going to be easier to get. So it probably won't jump up as high as Urshifu when it comes to price, I would think. But I know this is a popular deck. I know that people love this deck. It's not going to change too much with rotation happening because it uses like the Drizzile engine and stuff like that, and like Melanies and things. I mean, it's going to be harder to without things like Viridian Forest and stuff.
I mean,
for some of these decks, but
I will say though, like in terms of price, I don't know if these will get more expensive. I wouldn't be surprised though if they do. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Ice Rider and Urshifu jump up to like maybe 20, right? Because Ice Rider is going to be another tier 1 deck. There's basically 3 archetypes that are up in that tier 1. And then we'll talk about the third after this. But $13, $14 a card, especially because this is from the newest set compared to Rapid Strike. That's what's wild to me, Jake, is that this is the same price despite it having been out for 2 months plus shorter amount of time. And I think that's because it's like getting, it's overshadowed, if you will, pardon the pun, by Shadow Rider. And once the new set, once rotation happens, I think people are who want to buy the cards to play are going to be like, oh, that should not be the case. One should not be half the price of the other.
I like Shadow Rider a lot. I think it's a very fun deck to play. I think it's super good. I enjoy it a ton. I think it's going to go in. People are going to continue with it. And I don't know. You're going to see a lot of this deck as well.
Yeah, I like Ice Rider. The reason being is there's another card that comes out for it that people are talking about. But if you don't keep up with every new card that might be coming out, the reason that it is getting better is because of Suicune. We did talk about this briefly weeks and weeks ago, but once during your turn, if it's in the active, you can draw a card. That's just kind of a bonus. You're not doing it for that reason. But its attack, Blizzard Rondo, which is kind of a really weird name, to be honest. This attack does 20 more for each benched Pokemon, yours and your opponent. So at any point during the game, if your opponent, fills up their bench and you fill up your bench, you're doing 20 more for each. And that is, 10. So it's 200 more plus 20. So it's 220 for 2, which is almost the same as what Ice Rider VMAX is doing, but now it's just a 2-prizer. So now Ice Rider has a viable 2-prize partner that can deal out pretty big damage in terms of those numbers. And I believe the other benefit is this has a different weakness to Ice Rider. Suicune is weak to lightning, where I believe Ice Rider is weak to metal. Yes. So you can start to cover a little bit of your, Zacian is still going to be around. So that will be something for Ice Rider to have to keep in the back of your mind. You're losing weakness card energy. So there is no ability to stop weakness necessarily anymore.
And plus, you wouldn't really play weakness card energy anyways because your attack cost is 2 water.
Yeah, exactly. So
you'd have to play like a Frostmoth build on top of that.
So
which Suicune, Frostmoth, Inteleon, Shadow or Ice Rider. Well, that's clunky.
Oh yeah, super clunky. So I think this water archetype though, it's been I'm trying to think back to the last time water was a tier 1 deck, any kind of water deck. Can you think of any? Like,
not really since we started playing.
Yeah, like there've been like bits here and there, like, oh, maybe Inteleon VMAX was not tier 1, but it was good. And there was like
good tier 2, tier 3, WAP 2 was a good like tier 2, tier 3 for a little bit. But I don't think since like Unbroken Bonds that there's been like a good water deck, unless you count like ADP Keldeo.
And even
that was a good like tier 1, tier 2 for a little bit.
But that was also kind of like a weird tier 2. For any of you who played back in Cosmic Eclipse era, you'll remember ADP came out and it didn't feel quite as broken because the only Pokemon that you could pair it with were like Keldeo. To like, you know,
had to pair it with a decent water Pokemon, and Keldeo's thing was just like walling.
Yeah. And all you could do.
Because the format was all like Pikarom. The format was Pikarom, the Green Zard, and then like Pidgeotto Control.
Yeah, it's just
like you just ADP, and then you just hope that you get switches off of like Cold Crush and stuff.
Yeah. So it's nice to see that water is coming into its own. It gets some draw power with the ability with Melanie, and it has Pokemon that can actually deal not OHKO damage. I mean, you can knock out a lot of Vs, and that is going to be the game plan for Ice Rider of like, get an Ice Rider V, attach an energy. Turn 2, get an Ice Rider V Max, attach another energy, either attack directly or like boss a V up and kill it before your opponent has the ability to evolve. Like that is a bit of the game plan, but doing solid damage. So I am excited for a water era, and I think if is gold water energy.
I think it was a thing with Chilling Rain. I think it was one of the energies.
You might be right. I want to do water energy secret and see what comes up. Yeah, you're right. It was in Chilling Rain. You can also get the Crimson Invasion one. They're not cheap, but I said this before with Urshifu. And then again, prior to them announcing Shadow Rider, if you think that this might be a good deck for a while, which it could be, might be a good time to pick up some secret rare water. I don't know.
I mean, there's not too many people that have secret rare energies. More often than not, people have like alternate arts and stuff, because you have a max of 4 of those in a deck, where with energies, you could have like 10 plus.
That's true.
So
That's true.
10 times 25, you could be spending like $250 on energies, but you get to use these energies forever.
Unless you're fairy.
As long as they don't like rip or anything like that.
Yeah. Also, unless you're fairy Pokemon, which rip.
Yeah, rip fairy.
Yeah.
But anyways, Sean, do you want to talk about the third deck that you think? I'm curious. Okay, you were going to say Shadow Rider. That's what I thought you were going to say. I've been like, I know I've said this on the pod that I didn't think Shadow Rider was going to be any good because it loses like Horror House, it loses Trevin and Dusknoir. Like a lot of what makes Shadow Rider good now is getting that extra turn ahead of other people, and losing the Gengar Mimikyu tag team. I at first was like, well, I don't know, but I'm seeing these Sword and Shield on tournaments as of right now. I mean, I know we don't have Evolving Skies yet, and but you have to look at something like the Friday night Inter Sword and Shield sponsored by Atlas tournament that happened the other week, Sean, and you look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Shadow Riders take the top 8, one of them winning it. So like,
yeah,
I mean, I know it's not a complete format, but like it's doing well.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean,
without the Gengar Mimikyu.
I think the reason for that is also just because it is a strong card. Even if you don't have some partner cards that you maybe had before, it is in and of itself like the ability to attach an energy from hand, draw 2 cards. You have a decent attack, right? 30 for each psychic attached to all of your Pokemon. So throughout the course of a game, you're just, hopefully you're spreading your energy out and you're building up some pretty big hits. Probably not OHKOs, but big hits nonetheless. And you can pair this with things like Alcremie And then you get the ability to like mitigate your weakness a little bit because Eternatus is also going to be a deck. It's going to continue to be a deck. So it's just a strong card. And anytime that you can get free energy attachments and draw, like anybody who remembers Zoroark, right? Like you get the free draw. Anybody who remembers Malamar, you get the free attachment. Having both of those in one card is always going to be a good card, I think. So
you can use like the greens Reshizard concept from last year, and you can use the Cresselias that we have to accelerate your energies. You know, you go second, even though you can't evolve your first turn. You know, with this deck specifically, with Shadow Rider Calyrex, probably you don't want to attack right away anyways. I feel like a lot of times you would just want to use your first turn of attacking with using Cresselia and just accelerating a bunch of those energies, because you're going to need as many energies as possible. And since you're not going to have an extra turn, you know, that's like the best case scenario right now. Now, you can't use greens, obviously, unless you're playing Path to the Peak.
Well, you can't use greens because it rotates.
Well, yeah,
too.
never mind. Greens is gone post-rotation. Man, a format without greens.
I mean, you can't.
Man, that's weird.
You could use something like Peony, I guess, but like, you're not going to do that.
All I know is that Sander's been whipping up some like bulk box deck that he was teasing on Twitter, and I'm excited for it, especially with that new Zoroark. I hope it's good. I hope it's good, and I hope that I can play it.
I mean, yeah, I'll be interested to see Control, if Control exists in post-row, because you do keep Crushing Hammer, but I don't know if there are any cards that recycle from the discard back into the deck anymore. I believe Excadrill is rotating because that's Cosmic Eclipse.
So I don't know. You'd have to put like a bunch of ordinary rods.
Yeah.
You'll have to put I think Energy Recycler is back, but I mean, the things also with energies that you're going to be facing as well is you're going to be facing facing another card that we haven't talked about, Rillaboom.
Yeah.
Right. Rillaboom Delmise has made a lot of noise right now in standard as of late. I know a lot of people have been enjoying that and doing decent with it in tournaments. It's not like a tier 1, tier 2, but it's something that you can play and do well with, probably at a more cheaper option. That has its own energy acceleration. You have the Shadow Rider, which we've just talked about, has its own energy acceleration. Melanie and Ice Rider Calyrex, you know, getting those energies from the discard even. So even if you do Crushing Hammer one, it goes away.
I mean,
and
Flaffy.
Then also, say that again?
Flaffy.
Yeah, Flaffy, you know, being able to do that on Rayquaza, and then also Urshifu, it's going to discard its energies anyway. So you have to hit it on like certain turns, which is a lot harder than it sounds a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, people are saying take your hammers out in general. Like, we are not in a format anymore where everybody's playing 4 Crushing Hammers. But
yeah, I mean,
I don't know how Control can do.
It seems like Control will probably need some more cards to get printed. Now, I could
If there's anyone to break it, though, it's Sander.
That's true. I could maybe see Stall taking the place of Control with Cheryl. That's a card that has been wildly underused, I think, thus far. But there could be a world in which Cheryl, you know, with, I think Palpad, does Palpad rotate?
No, Palpad's from Sword and Shield base, I believe, or Rebel Clash.
It got a reprint.
It was an early set.
So, yeah, I could see that being maybe a strategy of like just setting up one of these big bodies. But the problem is, you know, you might see enough Rayquaza VMAXs or Shadow Riders that don't really have a damage cap, technically. So if you can't get all of their energy off consistently, because you only have 4 Crushing Hammers, right? If you can't really do that, then I don't know how you can really stick around. But we'll see. We'll see what Sander comes up with.
Plus, like, the energy is not expensive, right? No. It's not like, I mean, the energy acceleration on Shadow Rider Calyrex allows it to put multiple energies on in one turn.
Yes.
You know, Ice Rider is only 2 energies. Urshifu is pretty much only 2 energies. You know, a lot of these decks that you're going to be facing do not have super high energy costs. You know, it's not like ADP Keldeo going back to the Cosmic Eclipse format. ADP Keldeo and me playing Pidgeotto Control, where you don't have something like Metal Saucer, or you don't have something like Frostmoth to accelerate the energies.
Yeah.
And so if you just knock off one, then boom, you're already a turn ahead pretty much. Whereas it doesn't matter as much this format because we have a lot of energy acceleration. But also going back to Shadow Rider Calyrex, because we kind of jumped off the rail there. Both Sean and I kind of think that this card is going to get cheaper post-rotation a little bit.
That's the thing. I think $23 a card. So basically, if you're playing 3 of these in a deck, that's pretty expensive. I think it's suffering from like being a bit more of a hype card for the new set, of the most recent set, at least not Evolving Skies, obviously. And I think when people realize that Ice Rider and Urshifu are just as good of a deck, broadly speaking, I think this one probably comes down and gets maybe a little bit closer to those other two because it's not any rarer, right? In terms of rarity level, there's as many of these that exist in the world. So the only reason that this would be higher is people who, because I also don't know if this is like more of a collector's card than the others. I think the only reason this is higher is just because people maybe enjoy playing this kind of deck more, so they will gravitate more to the deck. But I do think there will be more of an evening out in maybe mid-September timeframe. So if you were waiting on like what deck should you pick and you don't have a preference, I would go with one of the other two that we just mentioned over this for now.
I also need to point out as well that once IRL events officially come back, we've had stints we've talked about of like IRL events happening in different places. I think there was like an event in Kentucky, there was one in New Jersey, like all these different events that go on, but they're not Pokemon official. Once there's an official Pokemon event that's IRL, all the cards are going to jump up. I think that should be a given. So the numbers that we're throwing out now are assuming that, IRL events are not coming back anytime soon because the pandemic is not going away.
I'm just realizing for the listeners who can't see our screen, it's $23, like $23, $24 for the Shadow Rider. So it's about $10
like I think it's going to drop down to like $20. I think both Ice and Shadow are going to be about the same price at about $20. But that's just assuming that no IRL Pokemon events, like official IRL Pokemon events, come back. Once that happens, like the cards are going to jump up like crazy, which is why I recommend like buying your Crobats now. Yes. Buy your Urshifus, buy all that stuff before it happens. I mean, I don't think that these decks are going to be going away until rotation, but the trainer toolkit, like Sean is pulling up right now on YouTube, the new one is a pretty good box, especially if you are a newer player. I don't think we really gave it the light of day that we could have when it first came out. It's relatively old, but you can get it for about $21.
Yep.
Right now. And you can get all the contents inside, which, Sean, if you want to read those off, because I actually can't read it because it's on your screen.
I mean, it's just, it's got a number. The point of this, it's got a bunch of playable cards, a bunch of staples. Mm-hmm. I don't exactly know which ones, but the main one that you'd be buying this for is the Crobats, because as you know, or if you don't know, Dedenne, which is a staple for drawing cards as a bench sitter, is rotating out. And now the only bench sitter you're going to have that's a staple is going to be Crobat. You can play Kricketune and Oranguru and other stuff, but really it's going to be Crobat. So
yeah, that's the main support Pokemon card.
Yep. And so expect that one. I don't think the price will go up, but if you're looking to get not only 2 Crobats, but also a small array of other staples, including like the Boss's Order. I think the Lysander might be in this box, that version, and maybe the Juniper.
It's not hollow for sure.
And like the Juniper version of Research. So you can get like a couple of Bosses, a couple of Research, probably a couple of Marnies, all that good stuff. Things that aren't going to rotate. Some Quick Balls and Evo Incense, all that stuff.
Yeah, level balls as well. Like there's just a lot of like great trainer cards. Like this is one of the best, in my opinion, especially from after seeing the first toolkit. This is one of the best like entry to competitive products.
Yes. So in terms of our buy list, if you are somewhat new or at least new enough to where you don't have a big collection of singles because you didn't get time to play it before the pandemic, pick one of these up. A lot of game stores I also know still just have these in stock. Same as the original Trainer's Toolkit when that came out. Like it's not a collector's item. They don't fly off the shelf. So you can probably also just go to your local game store and see if they have some. And there are, I want to say $20 MSRP, maybe 25.
Yeah, you might have to do it for like 25.
Yeah.
That might be the point where a lot of like card shops or something have them at. But I think if you go to like, a Walmart or Target, they'll be 20. But I also say support your local game shop. So,
Jake, we have, I think, just enough time for one more deck. Do you have something that you really wanted to get out there, or can I talk about the last deck, the hype deck?
I'm going to say play Zacian Ludicolo because it looks fun.
Okay.
And you could do like 800 damage. But Sean, you talk about what deck that you're excited about.
I will say
more of a meme.
For Zacian, if you want the cheap deck that's probably tier 1 or 2, Zacian with Inteleon is going to be actually your budget deck, because you can get these bad boys for just a couple bucks each now, because there's been so many promos of this one. So if you want your budget tier 1 1.5 deck, Zacian and Inteleon with the quick scope or quick shooting ability, that combination, some kind of deck like that is going to be, I think, your budget top tier deck. Just as a,
I don't think it's going to be tier 1.
Maybe not.
I think it'll be like a tier 2.
I mean, if Ice Rider is tier 1, right, and you're hitting it for weakness, that boosts it a little bit, right?
Yeah, but just because it's a counter deck to something that's super meta doesn't automatically make it like tier 1.
No, it does not make it tier 1, but it could be an interesting
Can
deck.
it still beat Shadow Rider? Can it still beat Urshifu, especially with, Dedenne being gone?
I mean, it's a tough call. I think if you can hit them for 230 and spend a couple of turns setting damage counters, and they don't have a way to heal, you could take all 6 prizes in one turn basically, and they have to knock out
with your Suicunes coming in, Sean, that you talk about.
Yeah, that's true.
You're playing Zacian. Well, I'm just going to play Suicune then.
Well, all you do is just don't fill up your bench. Have one Pokemon short of filling up your bench, and now they're not doing 220. I don't know.
You look at this format, everybody's filling up their bench, especially if you're playing the frogs, the dog frogs, as what someone in my Discord server called it, the frog dogs. You've got all of your frogs, your Drizziles, your Sobbles, your Inteleons on the bench. Ice Rider's got all those on the bench. Shadow Rider's got to have like 4 Shadow Rider VMAXs with the Cresselia. Like, everybody's filling up their bench. Urshifu needs like the Octillery, to grab a lot of stuff. They need the Passimian to do more damage to you on the bench.
Look, I'm not saying it's the best deck, but I actually think it is a little better. And
it's a good deck, and I agree with you in the fact that like the $6 for a Zacian is like pretty doggone awesome, considering how good Zacian is for how long it's been good.
Yeah. So that's the my honorable mention of that top tier. But I think the deck that I want to see what the initial where's Rayquaza? Okay.
I don't think it's on TCG Player yet. That would be more like something you'd have to look on eBay.
Why is Suicune on TCG Player and not Rayquaza? That's trash.
I don't make the rules, Sean.
Okay,
I really don't. But Rayquaza
eBay.
VMAX, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be a deck that you should invest a ton of money into, especially with Urshifu around. No bench barrier, your Rayquaza VMAX, your Flaffies are just going to get wiped out one by one.
Mm-hmm.
That really like hurts the deck with no bench barrier in the format. If there was a single bench barrier Pokemon in the format, I would be like, Rayquaza VMAX is awesome, but that's not the case. I don't know. I think Urshifu just hurts it way too much.
Yeah, I think Jake is spot on. That's why it's sitting firmly at tier 2, I think, for Omnipoke's list as well. The weird energy cost also makes recovering you attack. You can do 340 damage, I think it is, with 4 energy, 2 fire, 2 lightning, or some combo of that. But then, like, the next turn, that's the reason that the Flaffy is necessary, is you need another turn to power something back up. And yes, Rose can help to get 2 energy back, and then you attach 1, but you're still 1 energy short of a second KO. So I don't know.
Yeah, like, we're going to lose Energy Spinner. We're going to lose Viridian Forest. We're going to lose Giant Hearth. Like, we're going to lose a ton of, like, those cheeky ways that people find, like, specific energies when you play a multi-energy type deck.
How?
So like, are you just going to play Energy Search? I mean, I know some Japanese lists played that, but
I want to know actually how big the new Zoroark is.
I do like the new Zoroark. I think it's really, really cool. And I know that Sanders been playing around with it. It's right there in the second row. Yeah.
120. Oof.
Yeah. It's not super expensive. I think it's kind of niche, but like, I think it's really, really interesting. And I know Sander could, if you want like a safe card, $1 per is not, I mean, I would wait like
cheap.
A week after it releases to buy it. I wouldn't pre-order it.
Yeah.
But it also comes in pre-release evolution lines, I believe.
It does, yeah. If you got any pre-release kits, you may have pulled a couple of these already. So, yeah, the reason I mention that is because, like, the Rayquaza, it may be a deck where if you played the Zoroarks, if you could...
I don't think it helps you at all.
It may not, because you'd have to put, like, big terms on it, and that's just so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's at 120, and if you're like, why would you combo, in my opinion, so like, I would only do this for like a stage, like if you were doing like a stage 1 counter deck,
yeah,
or you were doing something that you needed outs to get stage 1s.
Yeah.
Or something. In my mind with like Flaffy, if your only stage 1 is Flaffy, like why wouldn't you just like evolve into Flaffy and put like, replace Zoroark? If you're trying to play both Flaffy and Zoroark, why wouldn't you just put like more evolution incense in?
The only reason, Jake, that I was thinking about this is if you could somehow make its HP big enough to survive an Urshi attack, and then on the following turn you brought in Flappy, but does it keep all the damage counters? If you use
this card and all attached cards, I think it probably does. Because it's not like a damage counter is not an attached card.
Yeah.
So
then
like, let's say even like for instance, Zoroark had 130, HP. It gets hits with a rapid flow, and then you try to go into Flappy. Well, they'll just take a prize.
I think what the only way you could play the Rayquaza VMAX is if you like had 1 or 2 Flaffies on the bench, and then maybe a Zorua or 2 also on the bench. And that way, like, if they blow up 1, you Evo, you bring it back, and then you kind of have it. But it's a lot of work. That's a huge combo to try to pull off consistently.
Yeah, I just don't think it's worth it. I mean, it's gonna get knocked out by a rapid flow anyways.
Yeah.
So I think you just pile in like more trainers and more consistency cards.
So yeah, you've heard it here from us. I will be probably building Rayquaza VMAX, but I won't be buying it until probably a week or 2 out from the set and people playing the set IRL, because I think the price will drop dramatically the same way it did with Reshiram and Zekrom. Coming down from probably, I think pre-sale prices now are probably going to be between $30 and $50 per VMAX. And then it'll come down and it'll probably hover around $20. And I think at that point, that's a fair price because it's also, people love Rayquaza. So I don't think you're going to get less than $20 a card for a while, just because it's a fan favorite Pokemon. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not really buying any cards right now. Well, I'll play on PTCGO and I'll try to like build decks on PTCGO. Like the first one that I'll probably try to build is Rayquaza, but I'm buying cards. I would rather, Sean, buy like books right now. Something that I can actually use at this point. I've been buying a lot of books lately.
A lot of manga. Yeah, I've seen your Twitter, Jake. All the manga.
I my Twitter is. I'm thinking about rebranding my Twitter to just like anime takes and all that stuff, because that's really what it's come down to. I still think about Pokemon a lot, and I still stream Pokemon every day.
Yeah.
But my Twitter is my dump of thoughts, Sean.
Yes.
Twitter is where whenever I have a thought that has some sort of value to it, it goes in Twitter. It's like my diary. Dear diary, Sean and I recorded the Metapod today, and I had a lot of technical issues. Thanks for listening.
This is true. Well, before we go, Jake, I wanted to actually shout out an event that a friend of the pod is hosting. Sleepy Dreepy. If you don't know Sleepy Dreepy, check him out on YouTube and all that good stuff. But they are going to be hosting a tournament Battle Against Leukemia tournament, where it's basically a fundraiser. So entry into it is $2 donation to the GoFundMe that's linked here. I'll link this in the podcast as well. But shout out to Sleepy. The Metapod is also going to be donating one of those Viridian Forest playmats that we did an event for so long ago. We're going to donate one of those as a first place prize. So if you want one of those mats and you want a chance to enter, $2 to a good cause is all you need. It'll be Friday, September 3rd at 6 p.m. The format is going to be Team Up 2 Evolving Skies. So if you're planning on playing in the POG 2021 and you want a little bit of practice with whatever deck you might be running, this is a great event to play in to get some practice against a variety of other players.
It's also good if you want to practice for POG, because Friday is when this event is happening, and then the Atlas POG 21 Championships is the next day. So let's say you've got an idea, you want to try it. I mean, this is a $2 entry that's going to a great cause and doing a lot of stuff. This is a perfect event, I think, for people to try out and play. Is there a registration cap?
No cap.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to double check and be sure, but yeah, I'm gonna try to play in it. I don't know if I'm gonna have a lot of cards to be able to play in it. We might be playing Zasha and Ludicolo, but we'll have fun.
Yeah, so if you want something fun to do for a good cause on a Friday night, link in the podcast description. Also, it's just on Limitless, so you can look around on Limitless for Friday, September 3rd. But yeah, outside of that, Jake, I think that's going to do it for us this week.
I think that's it. If you're looking for Evolving Skies, best of luck. I'd highly recommend going out now and looking at it, because I know for Chilling Reign, my shop that always follows the rules, they were able to sell Chilling Reign on the Monday of the week's release. So like after this pod, I'm going to go out and try to look for Evolving Skies to see if any. I also want to sell some of my cards while they're still hot, before rotation happens and stuff, and before Evolving Skies comes out. But yeah, I would check it out if you're looking to buy some Evolving Skies. Look at your stores this week. I know actually last week on like Friday and stuff, I saw a lot of people post that they got like cards from like Target and stuff, like single packs from like Target and Walmart. Like I think people just got the date wrong.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, that happens. I will say, compared to Chilling Reign, this set is obviously, I think, more popular. Our locals sold out of the pre-release for Evolving Skies. So yeah, if you definitely want to get stuff, it may already be too late by the time you're hearing this. But if it's not, and you wanted to pick up product, don't wait. I think it'll sell out, and you'll have to wait for restocks, which is going to be annoying. But look, this has got evolutions. This has got Rayquaza and Dragons back. It's going to be a hot set for at least the first couple months. It's going to be
a really hot set. I just want Zinnia. Zinnia's Resolve. Give it to me. But thank you so much for listening to Metapod. Make sure to please leave a review on YouTube comments. Spotify, I'm sorry you're out of luck. iTunes, leave a review as well, whatever star it is. And thank you for listening to the podcast that revolves around the evolving meta.